Well, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely.
I've never done something like this.
Absolutely.
We start with the birthday girl.
We'll start with the birthday girl.
Okay.
We have to.
This is how it works.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it.
Hi, Michael. It's nice to meet you. I'm Leia.
Hey, nice to meet you.
So you're kind of at the forefront with The Safe Man and kind of bridging the mystery genre and the supernatural genre together with a lot of like characters that have flaws. Like Brian has a lot of flaws. Audible and storytelling has sort of evolved throughout the years with characters. And I'm curious, like as a writer, what are you most excited for in the future in bridging these worlds together?
Well, a lot of what you just said, it was an opportunity to do something I'm not known for. This whole thing started as a short story about 15 years ago, where I was asked to write a short story that was in a genre I was not known for. So I personally, if I'm like on vacation or something, I love reading a Stephen King book, something like that. So I was drawn to horror, so I said, okay, I'm going to do a horror story. And actually, when you do something like that, it's a little bit of a high wire act, but at the same time, it's only a short story, so it's okay if you fail. And so I did that. You write short stories, they're usually for some kind of fundraising book or something, and you just kind of forget about them. So this story disappeared from my thoughts for 15 years until the two producers came over to me and said, one of them happened to be my daughter, and said, let's try to do one of these dramatic podcasts because they're in vogue now, they're growing now. I was listening to them. My daughter and I would trade advice on what kind of stories to listen, which stories to listen to. And I remember we bonded over this one called Passenger List, and I just loved that one. She loved it, so we reached out to the director and sound designer of that, and he was the first person on the team, and then we kind of went from there. I scripted it, and I don't know how much more. I'd like to do a sequel to this. I don't know if you call me on the forefront of that. I doubt I'm on the forefront of anything, but I do like trying new stuff for myself, and this was new, so I think I'm going to come back to it.
Did you find any difficulties developing the story from the short story into the audio drama?
Not really. I mean, it was a brave new world. I mean, I knew I had to expand it. We wanted to have at least 8 chapters to it, and in the short story, I think originally it was like 20 pages. So I knew I had to take it further. But again, I felt like I can't fail. This is a new genre. It will either happen or it's not. I'm going to spend some time on it. But usually when I'm doing something different, I get excited about it and get really plugged in, and that's what happened. In this whole thing, the biggest difficulty was getting the rights to that song, Que Sera Sera, at the end. Because you got to convince them that this is a legitimate project. Yeah, it's a ghost story, but we're not making fun of your song. It actually has a good underlying, it connects with the theme of what we're doing here, asking questions about fate and things like that. And but that was a long process of just getting that. It was longer getting that song than doing the whole thing. And one of the things I love about this somewhat new genre is the idea that this thing came together so quick. Once we decided to do it, I wrote the scripts fairly quickly. We got actors involved fairly quickly, and we recorded it, I think, in 8 days, part-time over 8 days. And so I'm used to things that take forever. Like you write a book and it doesn't come out for a year. You write a TV show and then it takes a year to film it, and then another year before it comes out. This feels very contemporary to me and very quick. And so you really kind of you get to the level of fulfillment or the level of interaction with people a lot quicker in this new genre for me. So I'm very excited about it.
Michael, nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Fan of your work, love even your appearances on Castle. But one of the questions I wanted to ask, because it's interesting, is how did you get involved in this particular genre of work? Because I understand that it stemmed from hand dishwashing.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about why I became a writer?
Yeah.
I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I worked at a resort, and I worked as a dishwasher. I'm talking about like when I was 16, and I was driving home one night around midnight, and I saw this guy running on the street. The streets were kind of deserted, and I saw him take off his shirt, wrap something in it, and hide it in a hedge. And being a curious guy, I turned my car around. I was at a red light when I saw this. When it turned green, I U-turned went to the hedge and I pulled out his shirt and it was wrapped around a gun. And then I'm holding this gun when suddenly all these blue lights start flashing and all these cops flood the neighborhood, and I quickly just shoved it back in there. I was smart enough not to be holding a gun when they showed up. And it turned out there'd been a carjacking that had gone bad, and the guy wouldn't give up his car, and he got shot. And so I spent a night in a police station describing the guy, so running and hiding it. And I knew nothing about crime or detective stories or anything, but I was so impressed by that night of dealing with detectives that I started reading detective novels and true crime, and that led me to say, hey, I want to try to do this someday. I want to try to write these. So if I had not had that split-second moment where a guy caught my eye, you'd have someone else sitting there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Last question.
Good.
So the Erie Tropics of Florida plays a big role in this story. So why did you choose the setting, and how does it enhance the narrative?
Well, again, when they came to me to write the short story a long time ago, they said, write what you're not known for. So I wrote horror, but I'm also known for writing about LA. So instead I wrote about Tampa, Florida, where I have lived, where my wife is from, and where we have family. And we had a house there once that we bought. It was an old house. It was built in 1928, which in Florida is really old. And we lifted up carpeting and we found a safe in the floor. So the origin of the story is a true story. And the safe was locked. It had been locked for decades. It had been forgotten. And we got a guy to come in, a safe man to come in and open it. It was empty. But that's the starting point. Then it just takes some imagination. You want to write some kind of ghost story. So it went from there. But I really enjoyed writing about, I've been writing about LA for almost 35 years in my books and stuff, and so to write something about Tampa was refreshing and fun.